Welcome to But Her Lyrics, the show where we delve into the political lyrics of songs I like, songs I wrote, or topics that I think should be a song. I'm Shawna Potter, singer and lyricist for War on Women, and your host. And I'm throwing my own podcast formula out the window today because I just played the 25th anniversary of Exotic Fever Records, led by DC legend Katy Otto, and I thought, now here's an interesting person I should interview. So I did it, and now I want to share it with you. Katy and I met during my old Avec days in the mid-aughts. We played in a Bikini Kill cover band together called Rah Rah Replica. I'll throw a video link of one of our shows in the show notes, definitely worth watching. And strangely, that band kind of led to War on Women, right? This idea that I could front a feminist band and not play guitar, I don't think I would have thought of that if it were not for our cover band. So knowing Katy already, War on Women asked her to put out our first 10-inch EP, Improvised Weapons. So yeah, Katy is a part of our origin story. More importantly, she's a drummer, lyricist, activist, and all-around cool person. So yeah, this episode is not lyric focused, though we do get into her writing process, which I find fascinating. There will be a bonus moment only for patrons that gets into the military budget and war, of course. Also tattoos and Fugazi lyrics. And actually, Katy's analysis of seeing War on Women recently after not seeing us for nearly a decade. Is that right? So that's pretty cool. Sign up now for my Patreon so you don't miss that alert. We also get into some different forms of microaggressions we experience as women in music, my thoughts on picking up the guitar again, and the power of high fem. Yum. Okay, before we dig in, huge shout out to my sponsor, Pupcakes and Pastries. They recently shipped Rosie a birthday cake. It's so cute. I likely have posted something about it by the time this episode is out, so go check out my Insta, even if you got to scroll past a few things. And of course, follow them and order cool shit for your pets too. If you're going to Camp Punksylvania, where we are playing Saturday, June 21st, you will see a table for Pupcakes and Pastries. They'll be there. You can say hi. I'm going to say hi. I'm going to see them. Will I see you? And also thank you to my de facto sponsor. Oh, getting texts. No, that's not a sponsor. That is a hell that we all live in. Okay, no, actually, thank you to my de facto sponsor, Ronnie, the amazing hairstylist out of Seattle, who has now cut my hair twice. Why am I in Seattle so much? I don't know. So go see him if you're in the area. And to my recruits, thank you so much, Melissa P. and Nick of First Defense Krav Maga. And to all my meatheads, Daniel W., Ben, Isaias, Russell W., Byron, Bob VV, see you at camp, and the legendary Stefan K. I love all of you. Thank you so much for your continued support. And depending on what you're able to donate each month, you get different perks, right? So one of which is you get to ask me questions that I answer on an episode. So here are a couple. John B. asks, do you like Tex-Mex? And what is Tex-Mex? Oh, John, I love Tex-Mex. I'm a native Texan, and that was my version of Mexican food growing up. I know you're asking what it is because you live in England, and Mexican food just is not done right over there. I can tell you from experience. The salsa over there tastes like ketchup. It's fucking crazy. So yeah, I'm not eating a lot of Mexican food when I'm on tour in the UK. I think major differences are like using flour tortillas instead of corn, which is why I prefer them. That's just what I grew up on. And to my understanding, fajitas is sort of a Tex-Mex invention. And I fucking love fajitas. So I'll take Mexican food in any form, at least in North America, on the North American continent. But yes, I do love Tex-Mex. Okay. Daniel W. asks, is there a lyric, not necessarily a song, that you wish you would have or could have written? I actually do have a song that I wish I'd written. I have an answer ready because it's been my answer for maybe 20, 25 years. Trust me that I am fully aware of all the reasons why I could have never written it. But my answer is Push It by Salt-n-Pepa. And no, I will not be elaborating on that. Daniel also asks, what is something you're struggling with, like personally, that you're finding difficult to incorporate in your life? So I'm kind of paraphrasing there. But my answer right now is self-soothing. I am trying to not rely on others to regulate me after I get upset. And also, I'm trying to not have a disproportionate response to criticism or conflict, to not, I hate to say it being a woman, but to not overreact. Now, luckily, this isn't something that affects me across the board, I should say. It really is about the people closest to me, whose opinion of me really matters, and who I want to do right by. You know, I want to be a good person for them, good partner, good friend, that sort of thing. Not just any old person or when my coffee order gets fucked up, right? So I'm currently at the awareness stage, and I'm not really sure how to take like the next step. I don't know what the first step is. So I think I'm going to be starting with a book called Secure Relating and just see where that takes me. Hopefully I finish it by the end of summer, but I got to be honest, I'm also really excited to read a book called Nonviolent Communication that I just got. And I could see myself reading that first, so we will see. But what about you? What about you, listener? What are you working on? Sometimes saying it out loud is the first step towards doing, not just thinking. So feel free to tell me in the comments wherever you are listening to this. Okay, speaking of, let's do this interview instead of just thinking about it. Interview time! Katy Otto, thanks for joining me on But Her Lyrics. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a real honor. I'm Katy Otto, and I live in Philadelphia, but I grew up in the DC metro area with a couple of jaunts along the way, living in England, Germany, because I was a military brat kid. I run a record label, and I play in bands, and I have two fun kids and a fun husband and a job I like. So
that's pretty awesome. I'm sure I went over some of your bona fides in the intro, so we don't have to hash out every single detail of your life here. But you have done a lot of cool shit, including just recently celebrating 25 years of running your independent record label, Exotic Fever Records. What albums are you most proud of releasing? Or maybe that's even the wrong question. Like, what's the thing about having this label for 25 years that you're most proud of?
Oh, thank you. You know, the first version of the question, it's a little bit like asking, which is your favorite kid, which, it's not that there isn't on some days an answer to that. It's just politics of answering it.
Just say Warren Women. Duh.
Yes,
no, just kidding.
Absolutely. Well, honestly, I think in some ways, if I were, though, to say the proudest, it would probably be that we did a first one in the first place, a first release, because we were 21-year-old young women who did not have experience. And my friend Bonnie and I, and later our friend Sarah, just thought there was great music that we loved and that other people weren't putting out. And we would just be like, why doesn't anyone put out that band or that artist? And so that was, which is, I guess, also what the great thing about running a record label is. The thing that I appreciate most about it is that I think there are really extraordinary artists who just need to find their audience and just need a little bit of assistance with things like production and manufacturing and distribution and promotion. And I guess also with our label, there's been an undercurrent of community and friendship and meeting other bands. So in some ways, yes, it's a business, of course, but it is really just also a curated community.
Hmm. Now, we've known each other for a very long time. And before we get into our connections, I kind of want to go chronologically with you. Like,
Wow.
what was music like in your house growing up? What was your family's relationship to music? How did that affect you? How did you get into music? And why drums?
Oh, yes. Well, so my father, the story that my mother tells is that my father failed to complete his PhD because he got so excited to have this baby and then just play guitar to her all the time. So my mom said I was actually starting to get jealous because he would just come home from his classes, and he would just sit there with you and play guitar to you, but then also play records. I remember being a little kid and my dad playing a ton of records for me. So, you know, Heart was a big one. My dad really got me into the band Heart. So that was
Nice.
pretty exciting. Still really into Heart. Um, and then also Rosanne Cash, who I don't feel like people talk about enough. I think Rosanne Cash is an amazing artist. And when I was like 8 years old, my dad had all these Rosanne Cash albums. So it was interesting because uh, there is no universe in which I think my dad ever would describe himself as a feminist, unfortunately. But I think that actually there's this sort of weird spiral where a kind of bootstraps you can do anything dad has two daughters and ends up low-key raising feminists.
Like accidentally feminist? Yeah.
Yes, because it's like my kid can do anything. Listen to all this. You could do this. You could do this.
Yeah.
It's a strange little circle.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And my mom loves music too, and actually, she's in a senior chorale group in Bowie, Maryland.
What does that mean?
So it's a group of 100 seniors. The band leader is the choral director.
Oh,
is
choral.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Choral.
Chorale. I was like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about some line
It has a
dancing?
D at the end of it, so I don't know if it's a chorus. It's a chorus.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And the director is this great person that I went to high school with, but they're amazing and they do 2 shows a year, really good.
Wow.
And yeah, she, had a lot of songs she would write and sing to us growing up. So I had a lot of music around me, thankfully. And
how did that turn into you playing drums? Because that's your primary instrument, right? Like, do you play? Have you ever like played guitar or bass like in earnest, like other than like fucking around, or has it really just been drums?
Well, when I was 16, I went to Lollapalooza 95 in Charlestown, West Virginia. And it was the Lollapalooza that Hole played.
Oh, hell yeah. That was the one my mom wouldn't let me go to. I was too young. I was too young still, but I was like, this is the Geffen year. I have to go. I love all
a
these
good
bands.
year. Even the side stage had Tripping Daisy and Hum. And Cypress Hill opened it.
Fucking A.
Although I think
anyway.
they switched the order every day. So at 10 a.m., they had these massive bongs coming on the stage with smoke coming out. And I was like, it's only 10 a.m. People haven't had coffee yet. And I mean, I knew who Hole were, but when I saw them play live, I saw Patti Chamel play. And I thought, this is the most amazing, beautiful thing I've ever seen a human do. I've ever seen a woman do. And I came home and I just was really dead set. I think I have the opposite problem of people who struggle to make a decision. I make decisions and then I'm just like, that's what I'm doing now. That's what I do. And I told my parents, I'm going to play drums. And they were like, there's lots of other instruments you could consider. And doesn't that require a lot of equipment? And but they're pretty, solid parents. So they're like, well, okay, give it a shot. But that's a lot of gear to buy for something you're not going to stick with. And I just remember looking at my dad and I said, I will always play drums.
The confidence of youth.
Yeah, it was. And then there was a kid at my high school who was selling a drum kit. It was a very janky drum kit. but he was selling it pretty cheap. And I remember there was a towel that held it together. Um, but then I took lessons from this jazz drummer who taught in his basement. Well, he had a studio that a couple of kids in the high school band were learning. I never did band, but they would take lessons from him. And he had this methodology where he would make you learn theory and how to play a snare, just a snare, and reading the rhythms before he let you touch the drum kit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of cool. And then eventually I got to do the kit. And then one day he saw me writing a check, and I'd been playing then on the kit for a while. And he said, "Oh, you're left-handed. You know, you can set them up left-handed." And all of a sudden, like that, I got way better.
Right, right.
But then every time I tried to pick up a guitar or a bass, maybe the left-handedness, it just wasn't. I thought it was interesting, but I didn't. There was something about that drums could be set up left-handed, then you don't have to think about it, and it's the same drum kit, and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a left-handed guitar, and so I think that element of my left-handed witchiness led me to drums.
Have you? I mean, you know, this podcast is called "But Her Lyrics," and I don't only interview songwriters, but I mostly do. But you've been in a lot of bands? Have you ever been the primary songwriter or lyricist in a band?
Well, I have not been the primary, but I have written songs in about half the bands I've been in, the lyrics and even sometimes sung. So yeah, I remember in my first band with my friend who I started the label with, Bald Rapunzel, Bonnie and I had a song called Siren Vigil. We were so excited. I was so proud of that name because we formed the band when we were 16 and 17.
Wow, yeah.
Siren Vigil, it's like an alarm, but like the mythology of the sirens who would, call the sailor men to their deaths. And so, but it was a real screamy song. And I just have this memory of my grandmother had begun to lose her hearing, and she came to a show and I was screaming it. And she's like, "I didn't hear a word of that, but it looked really exciting."
That's like every War on Women show. That's what everyone says. "I can't hear a fucking thing you're saying, but keep going." Rio.
And when I played in my duo with Dion Trophy Wife, we wrote our own lyrics, and she was kind of, I would say, like a 70% singer, and I was a 30%.
So it's interesting to me when people write lyrics collaboratively. And even if that's not what you're saying, what is your process for writing lyrics, and how does that? Like, I actually don't understand how you could sit behind a drum set and then start coming up with lyrics and a beat at the same time. And maybe that's what I'm envisioning. But like, what is the actual process?
Well, and I don't think it, at least for me, work with every band I've ever been in. There's been times when it's been like, let's do can you just say this thing? Because we're going to do like a group sing along.
Sure.
And that's one kind of thing. But with Dion, I guess maybe by virtue of being a two-piece, we had so many conversations that we just we were aware enough of each other's lives and what we were thinking about to have sort of a response or a reflection.
Wow.
And that's certainly not every band I've ever been in. I mean, I've been in bands.
Personal.
Yes.
Wow.
So it can work if you're around each other enough, I think. And I have this new band that I'm doing now, that I'll have the joy of playing with you on June 20th with my friend.
That's right.
We have this band, White Picket Fence. It's sort of like, it's funny, Trophy Wife, White Picket Fence, all the dreams. But I realized that I don't know, like he was just writing lyrics and they were good lyrics, but I had no idea really what they were about. So I started to ask him and sort of say, I want to understand what this is about. And I think that maybe that doesn't always happen to even people who are in bands for decades with different people, is that there are a lot of bands where nobody's asking you what you're.
That is for sure. There's a lot of surprises.
Maybe they don't even care. Or maybe it's like, I don't want to intrude.
Or they're like, I'm sure it's fine. I think that's what I get from this band. I'm sure they're fine. And then like a year later after the album's out, they're like, do you say this? And I'm like feeling quizzed. And it is interesting. And but I actually, because of that, I kind of do make a point in a lot of interviews of saying like, I do not represent the specific views of every single band member with my lyrics. Like, yes, we want to present a united front as a band because we have this sort of political thesis going on, but it's but how could they like sign off on every single thing I'm saying, especially when they don't even know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and I was the song, and I'm forgetting the name of it, of yours, that's about the drinking of the poison. The
Aqua
um,
Tofana?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's so rich and there's so much to think about. And it was like kind of like, oh, I had so many thoughts before I went on the deep dive, which I'm a person who loves a deep dive. And then I was like, oh, this is really amazing. And I started to think about, I wish some of the people who had intimate proximity to some of the worst men in the world might have be aware of this.
Happy to plant a seed. That's if there's one reason for me to hope that Worn Women gets a little bit bigger and more people know about us, it's not so that it'll pay my mortgage one day. It's so that some of these dudes will die. It's hard to say with a straight face. I'm half joking. I'm half joking.
I guess I also think, and I'm half joking too. I'm actually Quaker,
This
and I
injury's
believe,
fun. We're having fun.
yes. But also, how exciting though that your band has caused me to do a Wikipedia page search. Not a lot of bands do that. And
Oh,
that was something that I loved about Rage Against the Machine when I was young, was that I was like, I don't know if anyone else is nerded out on this book list, but they have this pile of books. I think it was on Evil Empire, where they just have all these books, and Franz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, and I'm assuming not every frat boy in the mosh pit took a look at that, even if a few did.
every little bit helps, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you do write lyrics, and do you tend to come up with a melody idea first, or the lyrics first, and then make up a melody? Are the drums involved, or is like the song kind of half written, and then you bring your shit in?
Well, they're
I'm getting
definitely.
like specific here
Yeah, I
about it.
appreciate it. No one's ever asked me this, but I do know parts of songs where it is not easy to sing, particularly if it's a fill or something. And maybe the parts are just as hard on guitar, but for me, I'm like, oh, this part is a beat that's simple and stripped down enough that I could sing. I am not a particularly melodic person. I do feel I've tried to stretch myself and grow with the encouragement of bandmates over the years. But what I do think I have is rhythm and cadence of like,
Hmm.
okay, how many syllables could drop, how many beats could there be? Uh, you know, I'm
Yeah,
big. I think also part of why I love rap and hip hop, because just the way of like a phrase could land within music. But
totally.
melody is not my strong point.
Fair, fair.
But I have learned, because I have realized that to sing with someone else in a pretty part, I do kind of need to learn how to harmonize. So when in Trophy Wife, Dion and I had this little podcast, or I don't know what it was, a recording where we would practice loud voices and notes, but it was for people who scream in bands. It was like a how to hit
Yes.
actual.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That reminds me that, there's this idea that whatever instrument you play, that's usually what you pick out when you're listening to music. Like that's what you hear the best. And because the vast majority of people are not musicians, they just listen to music, like they're listening to lyrics and words and vocal melody because it's talking, basically. But a guitar player will hear the guitar and the drummer will hear the drums. Like, what do you hear when you listen to music? Are you focused on the drums, or do you also hear the vocals?
I think I even hear the words more than anything else, because I'm so eager to understand what people are saying.
Hmm.
There's even been times where I've watched a band and later said to the bandmate, is that what your singer is saying? Especially if it's something that seems a little sideways. Um, but I will notice band's drum beat if it sounds a little different. I love music that's in strange time signatures. That was a lot of what I wanted to do in Trophy Wife, was experiment a little. And I think it might have come from the fact that I had a boyfriend when I was younger who once he played music too, and he once said to me, "Oh, it sounds really good when you all do those indie songs, but when you start to get mathy, that's when it all goes wrong, and you should stay away from that." And it just made me want to be like, all I want to play is math rock now because you told me I
Yes,
should.
because fuck you. Trophy Wife was great. I loved that band. I loved playing with that band. Me and Brooks's old band, Avec, played with Trophy Wife a few times. Those were good times. And that kind of gets me into like, okay, what's our history together, right? So I do not remember meeting you. I actually don't know when that happened exactly. But I know that I knew you during Avec, right? And we would
Yeah,
play together.
I was a big fan of Avec. Talk about a lot of like lyrical greatness. Oh, I loved
Oh,
the interplay between both of your voices
mm,
and the guitar. And I feel like it is important that people who follow what you do now also know that you are a dope guitar player. It
thank you.
doesn't mean you have to do it anymore if you don't want to.
Yeah.
You can be great at something and not feel like doing it. But yeah, you're
So,
great.
so, you know, Avec eventually kind of fizzled out and, wasn't really doing much, or we were about to officially call it quits. And so I had nothing going on and I just wanted to play. And I remember thinking, like, what if I did a Bikini Kill cover band? Like, wouldn't that be fun? Right? This band, this hugely influential band. And this is around like 2008, 2009. And it was pre, Riot Girl resurgence that's been going on. It was kind of this weird period where like it seemed like Kathleen Hanna was forgotten about. Like
Yeah.
now she feels a little bit more legendary, right? Like with the benefit of time and hindsight and reunions. But it just seemed like a movement that was over and no one was like concerned about it anymore, right? And it was not cool to be in a cover band, period, really. In my opinion, back then. So it was kind of a weird thing to do. But I think I just asked you, like, what are you doing? Are you available? I don't know if you remember how it went. But I just
Well,
wanted to play.
I think because I was a fan
Yeah, you
of
were. I knew you were also a fan, and I was like, well, you probably already know the songs, you know.
and a fan
Um,
of you. So I was like, oh, this will be cool to do. It'll be a
yeah,
chance to hang out and get to know her better.
yeah. So but like personally, I was like, I just want to play. I want a low stakes, fun thing to do. What was going on for you musically and personally at that time that made this idea of this cover band, Rah Rah Replica, appealing to you?
Well, you mentioned that it was around 2008 or 2009. And I hope it wasn't that I'm a pessimist. I know everyone was feeling great, first Obama term, and everyone's like, this feels good. We got all this stuff, and fighting for things like reproductive freedom is not really on our radar in the same way. And I think maybe it's because I have some cynicism or pessimism in me, is just, I think we have to keep the flame alive, y'all. I don't think we can be complacent. I think that was a part of it, was just we shouldn't
Hmm.
be complacent. I know we all feel good right now, but American empire is also bigger than any one person. And uh, what I didn't expect was, I guess I didn't expect our experience of having particularly like younger girls think it was our band.
Yes.
Try to buy merch. And I mean, that was both cool and also like oh, wow. There was a lot of good to it. We just said, these records exist, but there was such an appetite for it
Yes.
sometimes, and I think I had another band or two at that time, but sometimes I'm like, I think this band, there's more of an appetite for than the other band I'm doing. So
I mean, it really was a precursor to War on Women. It's like I can draw a line from it to War on Women because it felt like everyone was feeling so good that they're like, we don't have to worry about shit anymore. Bush is gone, like you said.
uh,
Um, and it was clear that things still were not great and needed to be talked about and improved, you know? So that kind of brings me to your activism. I feel like I've known you as a musician and an activist, like in equal parts. And I'm wondering if you can tell me how that activism journey started and maybe some of the projects you've been involved in. And then how does that like intersect with your view of music and punk and, how's it all? Because I'm sure it's related, right?
Or, yeah. And I think what made me a feminist was having to live as a teenage girl. Uh, uh, because up until being a teenager, I didn't really think of myself that way. And I think,
Right.
yeah,
I
like,
identify with that. Like, why is this different? Why are you treating me different? Like, it's
yes,
weird to
yes.
realize that, oh, I guess I'm different.
Yep. And watching in real time, a lot of abuse of social capital and power, and having, unfortunately, friends who were sexually assaulted, experiencing that on a range myself, and also having friends like who needed to access abortion care, just like a whole bunch of things. But I will say, then going to college, it really helped with a big slap in the face of a bunch of great professors and other students around racial justice, and some of what I did not understand about intersectionality in my original kind of feminist exploration. Um, but actually, a kind of a nerdy story is I read Bell Hooks in a class, and then I got really into Bell Hooks books. So I read all these books, and then she came to do a talk when I was 19 at the bookstore um, by my college, by University of Maryland, and I made a mixtape. It was like I put Bikini Kill on it. I put like Slater City on
Oh,
it, and it was like, and I wrote a letter of thanks, and it was like the nerdiest, cutest thing.
so
And
cool.
I gave it to her, and then I like skulked away, and then she came to town when I wasn't there, and then she came to town again, and I went to that event, and she said, "You're the girl with the tape. You weren't there at the last one. I listened to the
Oh,
tape," and it was very. It meant a lot to me, and I had also first heard about Bell Hooks because it was in some liner notes that Slater Kitty and Heaven Sebastian had. So
wow.
they they did a good job of. I feel like Corinne Tucker did a very good job, especially of making art that pointed to art other people were making and writing other people were doing.
You're really inspiring me right now because pretty soon Warren Women's going to have to deal with artwork for a new album. And I'm like, oh shit, should I just be putting a book list in there? Or is it like that's what social media is for now, you know?
Ah, that's a good question, but I thought it was pretty cool in your White Lies video, the artist from Baltimore you had.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like kind of curious what the relationship with that artist was. Because I started to read a little bit more, but with that
Landis
collab.
Expandis. Yeah. Yeah, he's just a cool dude. He was in that band Almighty Senators.
Okay. Oh, I remember that band. Yeah.
Yeah, the drummer, and he during the pandemic, he was just making like just weird green screen videos. I think
Yeah.
first out of boredom, and then maybe he realized like I don't know if there was a Patreon or maybe on YouTube. He was like taking donations kind of to do stuff, and then uh, and so then I was just like, it'd be fun not being in a video, but still having a
Yeah.
video. And it just, I don't know, it just hit me one day. I was like, we should obviously just get a Landis video. And it's like, we really do walk this line of like serious subject, but let's have fun.
Yeah.
Like we're goofy people and we want to experience joy while we fight for things that are important to us. And some of the stuff we talk about is really heavy. And so, I think other bands are a little more consistent, right? They're either serious or they're joyful. And we're just like, whatever we feel like in the moment a little bit. So I don't know if it's working for or against us or if it's good in the end, but it just seemed like a joyful way, a fun way to, maybe it's that like spoonful of sugar
Yeah.
kind of idea.
I liked it a lot.
But yeah, but come on, you've worked with Men Can Stop Rape, right?
Yep.
Empower. What was Empower?
Yes. So Empower was this organization started by Rosalind Wiseman, who wrote the book Queen Bees and Wannabes, that was
Oh,
about that the movie Mean Girls is
yeah.
based on. Even though Queen Bees and Wannabes is kind of a self-helpy type book about girls and friendships and kind of bullying and horizontal aggression. But it was really amazing to work for Ross. And then basically the way the music connected was I was playing music, I was finding all these amazing organizations. So growing up in DC, every Fugazi concert was either a benefit or a rally. And this sounds silly, but I didn't realize. I mean, I started seeing them when I was 16 years old. I thought, oh, every city must have one really big band that does all the big benefits. And then it makes all the littler bands want to do the benefits too, because part of being a popular band is to do good in the world. So I think that, the way that Fugazi operated and the way that Discord operated, I mean, really informed how I wanted to put things in the world.
Yeah.
I am a DC punk in my bones. So, and then, it's that State of the Union Discord compilation was an inspiration for me because they did this it was both a really cool comp with a lot of great songs and it was a benefit. I know there are lots of benefit comps now, and I stopped doing compilations after 5 because I was afraid that in the advent of more digital music, a comp is a little bit more of a forgotten form because people just seek out the artists they want. I felt like the compilation part of the art was the order you put it in, the group of people you put together. And I just felt like in a world of digital music, this will not translate. So I'm proud of all 5. We've done one. And Avec has a song that is on the Compassion Over Killing benefit, which also had a vegan cookbook that went with it. It was pretty fun. Some of the band's recipes were, a little more my speed than others, but they were all vegan recipes. Oh, Strike Anywhere got excited and gave 4 recipes. That was pretty.
I can't imagine that we gave one. I feel like I was like, I don't know.
I'm not sure if you did.
I'm not a recipe person.
Back in, but we did one for helping individual prostitutes survive, one for DC area books to prisons, one for District Alliance for Safe Housing, which is a DV organization. And then we did one for Vietnam Veterans of America when Bonnie, who I started the label with, was working in their benefits program. And it was all bands covering Vietnam era songs. And I did have to clarify a few times, like we got a couple of emails that were like, is this pro-war? Are you pro-militarist? And we did try to clarify this fundraiser is going to programs for treatment for people who the VA hasn't met all their medical claims or like they're living with addiction. And that is a place where I do think sometimes leftists aren't aware of all the veterans groups that fight for peace and all the veterans groups that, and growing up as a military brat, I'm just like, what I hope we can attack is the monster of militarism, not the individuals who are kind of chewed up by the military industrial complex. So I got a few passionate, angry emails, particularly from some European punks, like, why are you doing this?
Right. I do find that there are some, differences. What am I trying to say? Sometimes you have to have a conversation with a Europunk to explain, okay, well, here in the US, this is kind of where we're coming from, and it's like, once you talk, then it's like, oh, okay, we're on the same page. You get it, but because the US is so unique and different from other cultures, I understand their point of view where they're like, so you just support the military? Fuck you, and you're like, well, not really. It's just that's how evil our country is,
And also, like, I remember at one point, my parents, part of their mixed political marriage was that my dad was like enlisting in Vietnam and my mom was an anti-war organizer. And everybody thought their relationship was like a joke, but they've been together 54 years. So, pretty cool. really weird or so. I don't know, 53, 54, um, but it was helpful to live. We never, when we lived in Germany, we didn't live on a military base. We lived near it, but to sort of witness firsthand how when you're in a military family, it's really you're like reliant on all of this infrastructure for things like your health care and the Department of Defense schools to critique all of that is like almost felt as an attack against the people who are doing it by those communities. But I do think there are ways to talk about the harm of militarism, and still, gain the respect, and the more importantly than respect, but the audience of people who live in that space. And my dad, you used to say to me, well, part of why I enlisted was, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and I went to a high school where it was predominantly Black kids, and a lot of them were getting drafted, and it didn't feel fair to me that I would have this way to not be drafted. And I mean, I guess what we have now is an economic draft in a lot of ways.
Right. Mm.
I think what would be more exciting is if we had a really comprehensive campaign in this country to roll back the military spending budget. Like, that seems like a good step to me.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be nice. And I get excited. I feel like sometimes, like every year when it comes time to pass the military spending bill, I think Bernie Sanders votes against it every time. He's like, maybe we could spend some of this money on health insurance.
I mean, yes, we can definitely pay for all the food and housing and healthcare that everyone in this country needs. The money's there. It's just being spent on crazy shit.
Yes.
Harmful, genocidal, terrible shit. Yes. And it's maddening. Anything you wish I asked you that I haven't yet?
Well, I think that, I guess the one thing I will say is that it has been challenging to start a label in the year 2000 when physical releases were much more of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
When people wanted to buy a thing you could hold in your hands, and to try to make that work still in an environment that is very much digitally fueled and based, and where people maybe instead of a booking agent have a media manager or like a social media manager. This is something that I'm mostly want to mention because I'm still forever puzzled by it, because the punk that I started on was very much like you buy a thing in the mail and then it's like every day is Christmas when you open your 7-inch from the Frumpies or another project. So how do we, I guess I'm still struggling with the question of, I still think there is magic, but how do we make the magic when things are consumed in a different way? And I'm just, maybe if we end up, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Like the physical versus now, physical releases, record collections versus now a playlist. Or
yeah, I mean, obviously it's different for me too. I'm like, what's going on every day? But lately I've become more aware of specifically, TV shows and movies that disappear from streaming services because of behind the scenes legal issues, rights issues, whatever. And so, which plants that seed of like, just because it's digital, that, well, it's not safe. It doesn't mean it'll exist forever or always be available. And the only thing that's actually available forever is a tangible thing you can hold in your hands. And so there is an interesting push-pull of like, it sure is easier to not have a bunch of media sitting in my house, and listen to anything I want at any time. But also, if it really matters to me, I should have a physical copy, because who the fuck knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's going to bomb the US because they hate Trump? And if we don't all die, then the internet will be gone. There won't be streaming services, like all I'll have is my record player and my generator, I guess, to keep it going. This is obviously like worst case scenario, but But I feel like there's a version of this where anything digital could just be wiped out, and all we're left with is it's very Fahrenheit 451 or
Yes,
whatever, you know?
and it's funny that you say the thing about the generator because we've had well, it was funny when my husband's nickname is Mouse. So when Mouse and I got married, I did not want to combine record collections because even though we have two of the same thing,
I didn't
was
for
like,
a long time. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
he was like, "All right, you take this half of the shelf, I'll take this."
Yeah.
I mean, hats off to him because he also let me put a record label in the basement, which not a lot of people would do. But then the other day, our record player broke, and we've had that record player our entire marriage. And I was like, "We can't live like this. I own a record label." And he was like, "This is not like the boiler going out." And I was like, it's pretty bad. But then I also felt a deep amount of stress, like, well, we shouldn't buy the same record player that just broke because it broke. But he's like, well, it was 10 years old. I'm like, I don't know. Shouldn't they last like 30 years? He's like, I don't think they last 30 years.
Ugh.
I don't know how long
Emergency.
yeah, like how long have you had your record player?
I've had it a long time, but I probably don't use it as much as you do.
Yeah. I was really just like, and as I say this now, it's making me realize I have to go. And I am my father's daughter because I will look at like consumer's checkbook or consumer reports for the best functioning. That is the level of nerdery I will go to. So.
Love it.
I guess also just like the other place we still can, I think, make the magic and cultivate the magic is in cool things like, the Patreon you do where people have little snippets of something. I feel like in Dinosaur Jr., I think Lou Barlow sends out little snippets of songs. And then, of course, there's the in the room magic when we can make shows and events happen.
Yes, which is beautiful, which is what we just experienced recently with the Exotic Fever Records shows. That was very cool. And even though compilations, as we were saying, like kind of don't exist and the beauty of getting different bands together doesn't exist, it does when you have a show like that, different genres, different audiences coming together. Like that's the only time that I think a large bill, more than 3 bands is worth it, is when all the bands are like different and therefore like you can experience different stuff and find a different band. Like I just think that's really cool. And homogenous shows are like, what is the fucking point? You all sound the same,
For saying that and for being a part of it and for allowing me the pleasure of putting out that first 10-inch. I did have the funny thought as I was driving home. I was like, I wonder if all the dudes I know who run record labels care if all the artists like each other. I was like, I really want these people to meet each other and like each other.
Yeah, no, that is unique to you. Yes.
It's like, and maybe that's a superpower too.
Oh, I love it. Tell people where to find you online and what projects you're excited about right now or what's coming up for you.
Yes. Exoticfever.com is the website. It's we're also on Instagram and Facebook and I don't want to talk about the thing Elon Musk owns, but we're there too. And I'm playing in 2 bands now that have yet to have their first show. One of them is called Sun Within with 2 women here in Philadelphia, my friends Gita and Leah. And the other is called White Picket Fence. And we will have the honor of playing with War on Women, Girls Against Boys, MAPA, and Swizz on June 20th as part of the 40th anniversary shows for Revolution Summer and Positive Force, which is going to be a 4-day festival. That's such the immediate future. So I'm really, really excited. All the events are great. Positive Force DC website shows all the events.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Katy, so much for joining me.
Thank you, Shawna.
25 years of running a label because she believes in magic and community and giving cool people a leg up. It's so Katy. And it was so wonderful to talk to her about it. This felt like a really meaningful catch up with a friend, which was nice after a bunch of texts and emails about logistics for these shows that we played. So I'm really happy we got to actually connect and not just be like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, what time? Anyway, I'm also happy that War on Women just announced our European tour this summer. So head to our Linktree or to destiny-tourbooking.com to see all the dates. My patrons, you should know this, my patrons always get into shows for free. I will work something out with you if you contact me about it. So be sure to sign up as a patron and then message me about the show you want to go to. Even if you have to pretend to be crew for a day, I've got your back, and it's the least I can do to thank you for your support. So if you haven't already, subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/Shawna Potter to tell me who I should interview next and to listen to the bonus moments with Katy. You can support this podcast by liking my YouTube channel and sharing, subscribing, and reviewing But Her Lyrics wherever you get your podcasts. It's free and it helps. To find episode transcripts or to find out more about what I do, my book, my trainings, my Patreon, head to shawnapotter.com. To learn about all things War on Women, head to our link tree at linktree.ee/War on Women. You can also find me on Cameo and request random shit. So thanks for listening. Huge congrats again to Katy on 25 years of Exotic Fever. There's no song to listen to, so just go check out everything in her catalog. All cool shit. And fuck Trump and fuck ICE. And thanks for listening.